Emotional attachment feels powerful because it hides beneath loyalty, memory, and hope. Yet it quietly drains strength, clarity, and self-respect. You sense it when your thoughts return to one person without invitation, when your mood depends on their silence or attention, and when peace feels conditional rather than earned. This is not weakness. It is the natural result of letting something external govern your inner state. The Stoics warned that nothing enslaves a person faster than unexamined attachment, because the mind slowly forgets where its authority belongs. Emotional pain does not come from another person. It comes from surrendering control over your emotional center. When that center shifts outward, anxiety grows, dignity erodes, and life becomes reactive rather than deliberate. Many people attempt detachment by suppressing feeling, distracting themselves, or waiting for time to erase the bond. These methods fail because they avoid the root. Emotional detachment is not numbness. It is clarity. It is the ability to care without dependence and to remember without captivity. This narration is not about becoming cold or indifferent. It is about restoring command over your inner world. Through Stoic insight and disciplined psychology, you will learn how attachment forms, why it persists, and how to release it without violence against yourself. Detachment is not loss. It is recovery. When you detach correctly, you do not become empty. You become stable, present, and quietly powerful again. What follows is a structured path toward emotional sovereignty, built on reason, self-respect, and calm authority. Step 1. Core insight. The first principle of emotional detachment is understanding what attachment truly is. Attachment is not love, connection, or care. It is a belief that something outside you is necessary for your emotional stability. The mind confuses familiarity with safety and intensity with meaning. Once this confusion settles in, the person becomes a symbol rather than a reality. You are no longer attached to who they are now, but to how they once made you feel, how you imagine the future, or how they validated your sense of worth. This illusion keeps the bond alive long after the circumstances have changed. Stoic philosophy begins by separating perception from truth. What you miss is not the person. You miss the internal state you experienced in their presence. That state did not belong to them. It belonged to you. The moment you realize this, the illusion weakens. Emotional attachment feeds on the belief that the source of peace exists elsewhere. When you believe this, the mind resists letting go because it fears emotional deprivation. The Stoics taught that fear arises from false judgments, not events themselves. To detach, you must dismantle the judgment that says, "Without this person, I am diminished." This belief is never factual. It is conditioned. Begin with a reflective exercise. Sit quietly and write down what you believe this person gives you emotionally. Be precise. Security, excitement, belonging, validation, or purpose. Then ask a second question with equal honesty. Did this person create these states, or did they simply trigger something already within you? You will notice that every emotional experience originated in your own nervous system, your own expectations, and your own interpretations. This is not blame. It is reclamation. When you reclaim authorship of your emotions, attachment loses its authority. Detachment begins not with distance, but with understanding. When the illusion collapses, the emotional grip weakens naturally. You are no longer fighting the feeling, you are seeing through it. Clarity dissolves attachment more effectively than force ever could. This is the foundation. Without this insight, every other technique becomes temporary resistance. With it, emotional independence becomes possible. Step 2. Mental discipline. Once the illusion is recognized, the next task is controlling attention. The Stoics understood that the mind becomes what it repeatedly contemplates. Emotional attachment persists because attention keeps returning to the same mental images, memories, and imagined conversations. Each return reinforces the bond. Detachment therefore requires disciplined withdrawal of attention, not emotional suppression. The mind must be trained like a muscle. Notice how often your thoughts drift toward the person without intention. These moments feel automatic, but they are habits. Habits can be interrupted. The key is not to argue with the thought, but to redirect energy away from it. When a thought arises, acknowledge it briefly, then shift focus to a neutral physical anchor, such as breathing, posture, or ambient sound. This creates space between stimulus and reaction. Over time, this space becomes freedom, A practical ritual strengthens this discipline. Set aside 10 minutes each day for deliberate reflection. During this time only, allow thoughts of the person to surface without resistance. Observe them as passing mental events, not commands. When the time ends, return to your day with the agreement that rumination is complete. This containment trains the mind to respect boundaries. Outside the ritual, any returning thought is postponed, not entertained. This prevents emotional overflow while honoring honesty. Additionally, reduce emotional triggers. Remove reminders that invite unnecessary recollection, including digital exposure, repeated stories, or symbolic objects. This is not avoidance. It is environmental discipline. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed by the color of its thoughts. Choose neutral tones while the mind stabilizes. Mental discipline does not mean harshness, it means consistency. Each redirection strengthens self-trust. Gradually, the mind learns that peace does not depend on returning to the past. Attention settles in the present, where control exists. Emotional detachment accelerates when attention obeys intention rather than habit. When the mind is governed, the heart follows with surprising calm. Step 3. Emotional mastery. With attention stabilized, emotional regulation becomes possible. Stoic emotional mastery does not deny feeling. It prevents feeling from dictating behavior or identity. Emotions are physiological responses interpreted by the mind. When left unexamined, they escalate. When observed calmly, they pass. Begin by labeling emotions precisely. Instead of saying you are overwhelmed, identify the sensation as tension, longing, sadness, or restlessness. Precision reduces intensity. The Stoics practiced negative visualization, not to suffer, but to inoculate the mind against fear. Apply this by calmly imagining a future where the person is entirely absent from your life. Observe the discomfort without resistance. Notice that it does not destroy you. This teaches emotional resilience. Another technique is voluntary discomfort. Engage in controlled challenges such as cold exposure, physical exertion, or disciplined fasting from stimulation. These practices strengthen emotional tolerance and remind the nervous system that discomfort is survivable. When emotional waves arrive, respond with regulation, not reaction. Slow the breath. Relax the jaw and shoulders. Maintain posture. The body communicates safety to the mind. Consider an example. You see something that reminds you of the person. A surge of emotion follows. Instead of indulging it or suppressing it, you pause, breathe deeply, and name the sensation. You remind yourself that emotion is information, not instruction. Within minutes, the wave subsides. This is mastery. Repeatable and reliable. Another exercise is emotional accounting. At the end of each day, note moments when emotion attempted to control action. Acknowledge successes and adjust failures without judgment. Progress comes through awareness, not self-punishment. Emotional detachment is not emotional absence. It is emotional leadership. You feel fully without surrendering command. Over time, the nervous system recalibrates. Emotional spikes reduce. Calm becomes familiar. The person no longer occupies the emotional center. You do. This is freedom grounded in discipline, not denial. Step 4. Identity rebuilding. After emotional control returns, identity must be rebuilt. Attachment often fuses identity with another person. Roles, routines, and self-worth become entangled. Detachment requires separating who you are from who you were with them. Stoic identity is rooted in character, not circumstance. Ask yourself what values define you independent of any relationship. Discipline, integrity, competence, patience, and resilience are internal assets. Begin organizing daily life around these traits. Set standards for how you train your body, structure your time, and direct your effort. Identity stabilizes through consistent action. Replace relational focus with skill development. Learn something demanding. Commit to physical training. Improve your craft or profession. These pursuits rebuild self-respect and provide internal feedback loops. When progress is measured internally, dependence on external validation fades. Another practice is narrative revision. Rewrite your personal story without centering it on the attachment. Acknowledge the experience as a chapter, not the definition. You are not someone who lost something. You are someone who learned, adapted, and strengthened. Language shapes identity. Speak about yourself with agency. Avoid victim narratives, even internally. Stoicism teaches that dignity is maintained by responding virtuously to circumstance. Finally, cultivate solitude. Not isolation, but deliberate alone time without stimulation. Solitude reveals who you are without mirrors. At first it may feel empty, soon it becomes grounding. Identity solidifies when it is not constantly reflected through others. Emotional detachment becomes permanent when identity stands on self-mastery rather than attachment. You no longer need distance to feel stable. Stability lives within your conduct, choices, and discipline. Step 5. Boundaries and distance. Detachment is reinforced through boundaries. Without boundaries, emotional work erodes under repeated exposure. Physical boundaries involve limiting unnecessary encounters and shared environments. Emotional boundaries require refusing conversations that reopen wounds or revive hope without substance. Digital boundaries are equally important. Remove access to constant updates, images, and indirect communication. This is not hostility, it is self-respect. Boundaries protect clarity. When interaction is unavoidable, maintain emotional neutrality. Speak calmly. Avoid revisiting the past or speculating about the future. Stay factual and brief. The Stoics advised acting according to reason, not impulse. Boundaries translate inner discipline into outward structure. Another principle is distance without drama. Do not announce detachment or seek validation for it. Quiet withdrawal preserves dignity. Let actions communicate boundaries. Over time, emotional charge diminishes through lack of reinforcement. Distance allows the nervous system to reset. It creates space for new patterns and relationships to emerge naturally. Remember that boundaries are not punishment. They are maintenance. You are preserving your mental environment. When boundaries are respected consistently, detachment stabilizes. Peace becomes sustainable rather than fragile. Emotional detachment is not an act of rejection. It is an act of self-governance. You have learned to dismantle illusion, discipline attention, regulate emotion, rebuild identity, and protect clarity through boundaries. Each step returns authority to where it belongs, within your control. Stoic calm is not passive. It is earned through conscious effort and repeated restraint. Detachment does not erase memory or meaning. It removes dependency. You can remember without pain, care without craving, and move forward without resentment. This is quiet strength. When emotional independence is established, relationships become choices rather than needs. Peace becomes stable rather than conditional. If this approach resonates, reflect on it slowly. Apply it deliberately. Progress favors patience. Strength grows in silence. If you seek further guidance rooted in discipline, clarity, and timeless philosophy, continue this path with intention. Mastery is built daily through small acts of control. Stay grounded, stay sovereign,